Hi, my name is Aurora Warner, and I'm grateful to share my personal experience and perspectives of what inclusion means to me. Thank you so much to the mentors and mentees that have participated in our inaugural Mentor Match program. Maddie Marquis and I started outlining the Mentor Match program the same tragic week of the killing of George Floyd. The remarkable demonstrations for justice and in support of the Black Lives Matter movement made inclusion a vital pillar of focus for this program. We realize that this program is short in duration, but we sincerely hope that you've been able to reach a comfort level with your mentor or mentee to have sincere dialogue on this crucial topic. Over the past several weeks, I've immersed myself in content to better understand the sentiments and experiences of diverse individuals. Specifically, I've sought out content from African American and LGBTQ scholars, writers, and activists. I think it's important for me to share with you a little bit about who I am because I believe that who we are and where we started in life is a magnificent part of our journey. My birth name is Aurora Maria Eliserio. My parents are of Mexican origin, and my dad moved to the United States as an adult, not speaking any English. He made his way through the Midwest up to Flint, Michigan as a migrant farm worker and construction worker. I, along with my 5 siblings, were born in Flint. When I started kindergarten, I learned at 5 years old that I was different. And in my attempt to be like everyone else, which is so much more comfortable, I stunted my Spanish vocabulary skills when I stopped answering my parents in Spanish and made the decision to only respond in English. I led a bicultural life in that at home I was something different than what I was on my walk to the bus stop, than what I was when I got to school. I grew up on the north side of Flint, which is and was a predominantly Black neighborhood. I went to Mexican Catholic church where we attended Spanish Mass. I took the bus to an elementary school across town, which was mostly white with nominal representation of other ethnicities. Here I was, a Mexican American kid who grew up in a Black neighborhood and went to school with white kids. I felt like an outsider, and I often lacked the confidence to be my true self. I share this early story with you to paint the picture that I think everyone can relate to. We all know how it feels to be the only one at some point in our life. We all know how it feels when we decided to remain quiet when we should have spoken up. These early memories and the extent to which we believe those spirit dampening moments can shape our experiences as we forge our path to adulthood. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. A colleague I've known for several years recently inquired if I was Mexican. They said they didn't know and theorized my ethnicity to be possibly Greek or Italian. I chuckled at the question, thinking they were kidding. And then I realized they weren't kidding, and I answered, yes, I am Mexican. It was in that brief interaction that I recognized the extent to which I willingly allowed myself to water down who I am at work. Although I was an amenable participant in muddling my background, this took me back to my childhood. In my professional career, I've observed how diversity and inclusion is something that many companies tout as a commitment. However, diversity and inclusion can sometimes be a challenge when there are expectations surrounding a cultural fit narrative. As I mentioned earlier, I've been trying to understand a few themes and terms that are bubbling up to the surface now more than ever. The 4 topics I've chosen to highlight are anti-racism, microaggression, white privilege, and allyship. Professor and author Ibram X. Kendi describes an anti-racist as someone who actively fights against racism, rather than taking the passive stance of being non-racist. To be anti-racist requires an understanding of history and an understanding of the roots of racial disparities that have failed people of color in order to elevate white supremacy. To be anti-racist is to take inventory of and to eradicate policies that are racist and that have racist outcomes. Microaggressions are everyday, subtle, intentional, and oftentimes unintentional interactions or behaviors that communicate some sort of bias toward historically marginalized groups. Microaggression is different from blatant discrimination in that those who commit microaggressions may not even be aware that they're doing so. An example of microaggression is when a non-white person is complimented for being so articulate or well-spoken. I've had someone go so far as to tell me that I must be half white because I spoke English too well. Another example of microaggression is the misuse of pronouns. Misusing pronouns or making assumptions about gender is something that has caused me personal pause. As a talent acquisition professional, my business is people. I generate a high volume of correspondence, mostly email, and there are times when I've made assumptions about a candidate or an employee that they are she or he, based solely on their name or their profile picture. Is it absolutely necessary for me to take those shortcuts to categorize someone when I don't have the personal knowledge that they fit into the bucket that I chose to put them in. White privilege is something that I understood broadly, but hadn't really considered the many layers and forms of privilege until recently. I believe the easiest definition of privilege is when someone receives unearned benefits simply because they're part of a group. The societal privileges that come with being white are well documented. Beyond white privilege, however, there are a multitude of ways that we, me and you, experience privilege. Am I a U.S. citizen? Yes. Do I identify as the gender that I was assigned at birth? Yes. Do I have a college degree? Yes. Can I afford to attend after-work social activities that will advance my career? Yes. So look at that. I have privilege. So how will I choose to use it? This leads me to allyship. Allyship is a lifelong journey that seeks always to do better, to commit to empathy and learning, and to analyze one's privilege. It's very likely that as allies we will make mistakes. As long as we make it clear that we are sincerely trying to understand and evolve, I believe that we will create a safe space to have respectful dialogue. I ask that you reflect on what these words mean to you. Understanding the disparity and opportunity and working to correct it is something that cannot rest on the shoulders of those who have been negatively impacted. To paraphrase author Lavi Ajayi, when it's your time to take action for the greater good, speak truth to power. Not just when it's difficult, but especially when it's difficult. Thank you.